Happy Friday, everybody. Back for another special episode here, episode 13. Welcome back to Black Friday. These opinions are not for sale. It's Christian, Omar, we got Chris, and we got a special guest this week. We got RC Maxwell himself, the Black Kennedy. You can follow him there, Black Kennedy on Instagram. Yo, RC, man, these people might not know you, man, so let them know what's up.
That's good. I like to not be known. Thanks for having me on. I'm a quote unquote influencer / political consultant. I run strategy for a lot of people who are currently in office, movement type of people, and I also work with some conservative organizations you might consider stalwart organizations, TPUSA affiliates, Act for America, some other organizations I'd rather not name at the moment for their protection. But I'm happy to work in politics despite our vitriolic time. And, this is a somewhat scary time for a lot of my friends who work in politics and people that I work with and work for. We know that the DOJ is about to be weaponized, and we're bracing for that. So that's why I like to be unknown. I'm sorry for being me.
Yeah, it's all good. You guys can thank RC for that. But it's all good, man. We got a lot of love here. We got some loyal supporters, people watching. And then, again, for those of you watching, please like, subscribe, support. If you guys want to donate, sponsor an episode, feel free to reach out to any of us. We're more than happy to help that and help you make that happen. Get the words right. Man, it's been – yeah, go ahead and share it on Facebook. I'm about to get this shared myself, make sure we get some more reach on it. But I mean, this past week, we're just bracing after, January 6th in D.C. And now we come back this week and we've got impeachment round 2. The Republican Party's absolutely fractured and shattered. And we've got a lot of weak people. I'm seeing a lot of weak people, honestly. That's what I see. I don't know what y'all are seeing, but that's what I'm seeing. So, I mean, the first thing I definitely think we should hit on, man, is definitely impeachment round 2. Yeah, what are we seeing here, Omar? What you got?
All right, y'all can hear me?
Sure can. Yep.
Well, impeachment round 2, I wouldn't even call it round 2 because of what Mitch McConnell is now saying, that he won't even bring the Senate back into session for a trial of some sort. But yes, the House narrowly impeached the president of the United States again. Basically, this was not necessarily to remove him of office because he will be leaving office on Wednesday. But however, if he were to have been tried and convicted, he would have lost his post-presidency perks. Basically, his pension, his security detail, his allowance to travel, which, I mean, he has the money to travel wherever he wants to, but he's going to have had to pay for it. But he wouldn't have had a staff or an office outside that if he wanted to use it for presidential stuff. Those are presidential perks, basically. And also, if he would have been convicted, it would have made him ineligible to run in 2024. So, and this is the common mistake people make since the law was passed in the 1900s that made that term limited the presidency. It's not 2 consecutive terms, it's just 2 terms. The president can have 2 terms or up to 10 years, just in case a vice president has to become president. So basically, right now he is still eligible to run again in 2024. I used to think it was 2 consecutive terms because Daddy Bush, I should say, lost in 92 and didn't run again. I just thought it was law, and basically it's not. And I said all that to say, to clear it up for our viewers that may be confused on that, like I was. But that's basically impeachment round 2 textbook version.
Yeah. Hey, checking in here, we got some comments saying that there's a volume problem. Can y'all hear us? Can y'all hear us? Yes, thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah, that's right here. See if they can hear us. But Omar, thank you for that. Always like the policy and the explanation here for those of them that don't know. Chris, what you feeling, man? What you feeling?
Man, I swear to God, it's like you said, a lot of fracturing in the Republican Party right now. We got, 10 Republicans voting for impeachment, and these are Republicans who I'm sure were relying on Republican support to get their re-election or to be elected. In my home state of Michigan, we had two. We had Fred Upton and Peter Meyer. Peter Meyer being the new congressman taking Justin Amash's seat, and that's Grand Rapids right there. That's Trump country, and I don't see his career going very well after him voting for impeachment. He made a lot of people mad with that. I'm just kind of curious how this is going to go for these 10 Republicans who decided to vote for impeachment in 2 years when they're asking Republicans to come together to support them when they didn't come together to support the leader of the party, Donald Trump. It's going to be really interesting to see, and time will only tell what will happen. That's what I'm looking forward to see, because in my opinion, a lot of these people really relied on Republicans, and so they're a bunch of hypocrites in my opinion. They relied on Trump to campaign for him. They relied on Trump voters to campaign for them, and now they're turning their back on him. So I think it's hypocrisy, in my opinion. But how do you guys feel about it? These Republicans voting for impeachment.
Well, I mean,
this is a family show, Bobby. Thanks for vaping on the air, man. I appreciate Omar dropping F-bombs. We got Bobby vaping and tobacco and everything. Let's just do whatever, guys. Just do whatever you want. I got to do whatever you want.
Vaping is the healthy alternative. Is the healthy alternative to tobacco in my mind. So.
Here we go. All right. RC, you can jump into that. And Chris's question again was, how do you feel about the Republicans that supported impeachment?
Well, hypocrite would be a kind term to use to these people. I think Chris is right. A lot of these people relied on Trump. Adam Kinzinger, for example, was someone who actually pleaded with the president to be secretary of the Air Force, someone who served in the Air Force, who wanted to serve in President Trump's administration, who literally said, quote, "I would be honored to serve in your administration, President." Didn't get the job. And, a few months later, he was criticizing the president for walking away from negotiations on, the bailout the stimulus. And he said that the GOP is losing its mind to support President Trump at this point. A lot of it is dirty politics. It's people looking for an opportunity to cut and run from the president, like John Cathco from New York. He's in a D+3 district. He feels this is his best way to continue currying favor. If you remember, he flirted with the first impeachment, and then he came around and endorsed Trump, for the election as well. So, you see a lot of dirty politics from all these people. And, I hope the chickens come home to roost. I hope that conservatives fight. We go to Wyoming. We go to, Westchester, New York. We go to Illinois. We go to Michigan, these places to primary these people, because I know what's going to happen. And what's going to happen is, the establishment is going to, they're going to pull a bait and switch. We need to be highly skeptical of people who register these PACs who are going to be opposing these rhinos, because if those people are rhinos themselves, and this money just gets filtered down to other consultant organizations, and that money ends up getting filtered back to McConnell and the NRCC and the NRSC. So, we have to do a good job to make sure we are trustworthy, we're steadfast, we're skeptical of who we're giving our money to, and we need to unseat these people because they can all get primaried. The president's base is stronger than ever. So, that's my opinion on those rhinos.
Definitely. Something I've been saying for the last month or 2 months or so now is I said not another penny. Not another penny. Any of these people, because they beg and they send you emails and text messages. I've got several from Nikki Haley this week already asking for money to donate to their PACs, to themselves, for all these things that they haven't fought for. They haven't delivered for the American people in any sort of stance. Every time I look on social media, they're always saying something in opposition to the president. They're not standing behind it in the will of the people. They're on their own little wave of doing whatever they believe is nice and proper, and leaving everybody out hanging out to dry. So I don't understand why we should be giving them any more money. Just like Archie said, I think we should primary them all. Every single one of them that's not doing what we elected them to do. They rode the president's coattails through this election and killed it in absolute all numbers. And the second it got tough, second it got a little tight, everybody just folded. They all folded. And that's absolutely, it's a shame. It's a sham, but it exposed the GOP for a lot of what it really is, for what it is, the whole party is now. And it's fractured. I think it's fractured beyond belief. I don't know if it can recover. I think it might get nuked. I think we might just have to
Look, I think it can definitely recover. And I think that, within the money point, we need to definitely not give money to the RNC, but we need to make sure we consolidate our money somewhere. And to Omar's point, I really don't think the president is looking to run again in 2024. I think he'd be happy to continue flirting with that idea, just to continue to keep his brand strong and continue to taunt the media and his haters. But I don't think the president's going to run. I'd love to see the president start a PAC. President Trump was the only person when he ran back in 2016 who refused to sign a pledge that said that he wouldn't start his own PAC. Obama famously did the same thing. He started organizing for America. I think Trump should do the same thing, and I think that would be a trusted source for us to rally our money behind. But I don't know. I think the party is definitely fractured, but I definitely think that I don't know. I still think that in 2022 we're going to see the trend hold true, and I think that the opposition party is going to pick up enough seats to retain the House, and I think that's going to be interesting, and I think that conservatives are going to be fine. I know that we're not being optimistic right now. I know that we're like to be, conservatives, we're doom and gloom right now, but I'm pretty optimistic that we're going to, in 2022, retain the House and be able to stifle a lot of the radical agenda that's coming in.
I'll say this to all of those points. I would like to see who becomes RNC chair. Usually when you become president, of course, the president picks the chair, but the president doesn't formally pick the chair, if that makes sense. They still have a voting process.
I have some bad news for you, Omar. Rona already accepted her nomination to be chairwoman again. She's going to be chairwoman again.
That's terrible.
Yeah. And when I got that email, honestly, when I got that email, I unsubscribed from the RNC. When I got that email from Rona, and then she sent a follow-up email, decrying the attacks on the Capitol Hill, I unsubscribed from the RNC.
It's terrible. I'm glad you did interrupt me and tell me that, because it's terrible, because we need to take a page out the Democrats' book. When Tim Kaine lost the House, they didn't even have to lose the presidency. When he lost the House, they made immediate changes, and but even though they didn't result in wins, they're resulting in wins now. They keep changing. They keep trying to figure it out. Every time they lose, they keep changing to make sure they stay competitive and stay relevant. I think when we lose, we need a change, because obviously there's something there. When we had a viable candidate for president, when we had viable candidates up and down the Republican ticket, whether it be in the House or in the Senate or in statewide races, if we're not winning houses of Congress, if we're not winning houses in the state legislature, something needs to be done. Ronna needs to be fired by the Republican Party. Liz Cheney needs to be primaried. There's only this. I think for a congressional seat, you need to have 700,000 people in the district. Wyoming doesn't even have 700,000 people in the state. We can find someone to replace Liz Cheney. She's been on the outskirts for years. All of those other people you mentioned, like the two you mentioned, Chris, in your home state, I don't necessarily know those folks. But what I will say is, while that part of Michigan is Trump country, that part of Michigan also, they're free thinkers, and they're unconventional, but also when those people that get into those seats become conventional, what happens? Michigan usually ousts them unless it's like a John Conyers or that who's that fellow that Trump got onto a few years ago, Dingle.
Yeah. Well, Dingle died. It's now his wife. So we're at like year
right
9 of the Dingles. And she was.
And wasn't Dingle's father in control of that seat beforehand?
Yep. So I think if you add up all the years, I think we're like about to hit like 90 years or something of the Dingles control. Or I mean, the seat has changed obviously with the census and all of the redistricting, but they've been in Congress for too long, way too long.
And those folks and folks need to be I think nearly half the Republican Party should be primaried. I don't even care if you're in the Senate and you're a good senator. A good primary will keep you on your toes. You may win and you still may win your seat. And you may actually be a good representative. But I honestly think a lot of people need to be primaried to keep their promises, keep on their P's and Q's, keep them on their toes. Why not? It only makes you better if you're a good representative and you get primaried.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we need to be out here and as conservative voters, I don't, and I've said this in past episodes, I don't consider myself a Republican. I vote conservative, but you need to look at who you're voting for, and it's not always the incumbent who's the best. And now I think a lot of people can really see that the way that the Republican Party is shifting and changing. There's some that want to go back to the old ways that was pre-Trump, and there's some that want to continue on with this momentum because Trump has made massive moves in the conservative movement. There's no other conservative who could have done what he has done. What were you going to say, RC?
There's no one. There's no one who wants to see the Republican Party return to what it was, other than the Republican oligarchy and the GOP, the McConnell. Those are the only people. You take a look at the Lincoln, whatever they are, the Never Trumper group. That was a group that was concocted by the media.
Project. Oh, yeah.
The Lincoln Project. There wasn't a substantial amount of conservatives at all who supported this group. There wasn't any Never Trumpers that were legitimate, actual Republicans. They were mostly Democrats. So what you see is it's concocted, right? Because you take a look at these pretenders that Christian mentioned, and I've met Nikki Haley. I've met her at TPUSA events, and I saw her attempt to create a huge line of known grassroots influencers, and it was offered to me if I wanted to join the line. I didn't want to wait around to meet Nikki Haley for a specialized 90 seconds. I did that for Rudy Giuliani, just because of historically, what he's meant to America. But I didn't do that. And not to say I hate Nikki Haley. She could earn my vote, but as of right now, she's in the pretender category. Do you think Nikki Haley can get the black support that Donald Trump did? That's
my biggest question. I want to ask you this. I want to ask everybody here. Do you think Nikki Haley can fire up the Republican base? Can she turn out 74 million people to vote? Can Nikki Haley get 74 million votes?
No. And Nikki Haley can be someone who can be talked about in the Wall Street Journal for puff pieces. She can be someone who can make interesting biops, but that's about it.
I'll say this: I'm actually a Nikki Haley fan. I'm a fan of hers. Do I think right now would she win the presidency? Probably not. I'm smart.
Yeah.
But at the same time, do I think she is smart? She is qualified. She can do the job. I believe she can. But is she rah-rah enough to bring primary voters out to the polls? Probably not.
No, rooting for Nikki Haley is like rooting for the quarterback that, doesn't throw a lot of picks, quiet. He can't win a game for you. He doesn't lose a game for you. But if he's your quarterback, you're going to root for him. You might even buy his jersey. That's what Nikki Haley is as a candidate. She doesn't have any conviction. She doesn't rile up the base. She's like Marco Rubio, someone who I used to love back in the day when I was a young conservative. I loved Rubio. He was fired up. He would talk about the deficit in a way that was interesting. But let's be honest, Marco Rubio is not going to galvanize the base. He's not, So I understand why you like Nikki Haley, and I respect people who like Nikki Haley. But, like I said, Nikki Haley is like an Alex Smith quarterback, where she's like she's a Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Can't win the Super Bowl.
Done most of the time, nothing flashy, nothing exciting. But, when you need that extra mile, you're not going to get it. When it's crunch time and you're down 10,
Yeah, she sounds good. She might roast Kamala in a soundbite here or there. She's an Indian. She's a woman. She's young. It looks great on paper to a degree, but you know that she's not going to. She doesn't have enough convictions to inspire Wisconsin Dems like Trump did, Pennsylvania conservatives, all the things that Trump did in 2016. It's going to take a damn near miracle to overcome, this new level of voter turnout. So
Right.
you need someone who's going to be like almost like Tim Scott is someone who's close. Tim Scott's close.
I can't see Tim Scott running. I can't see Tim Scott winning, and I'll tell you why. Tim Scott is brilliant. I'm not saying that. I love Tim Scott to death, but Tim Scott just doesn't have that. Some people, they have it. I'll say this. I can't stand Barack Obama's politics, but he had an it factor to him. A lot of people can't stand Trump's politics, but he had an it factor to him. It was something about him that made you want to go to the polls. And Christian will disagree with me on this one, but historically, you got to look at the trend. Bush had an it factor. People liked Bush. People wanted to like Bush. And that's historical. I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about historically. Historically, people wanted to like him. People wanted to like Obama. People thought Trump had enough it factor. Trump is a little weird case because you either love him or you hate him. But he had an it factor to him that made you either want to go to the polls to vote him in or made you want to keep him out. Every president had an it factor to him, and Tim Scott does not have it.
It's the polarization with Bush and Trump now. It's not comparable. That's why I don't think you can group it like that. Like Bush and the it factor. Plus, there are extremely tragic events that happened.
Think about it. Clinton had an it factor. Clinton and Reagan had it factors.
But behind those it factors were dynamic policy perspectives that changed people's mind. Trump came in talking about the media. We should be skeptical of it. Trump came in talking about our border policy. He came in with some ideas that were beyond the pale of what Nikki Haley right now is talking about. And I think Tim Scott, he's been very quiet. I saw him give some speeches about, urban revitalization and criminal justice reform that were inspiring, that were anchor dropping speeches. I think that he has some, kind of old school civil rights, Black activist type branding that he can tap into. But behind, like I said, behind every it factor was some kind of dynamic policy perspective. Bush was a neoconservative, and neoconservatism was at its height when Bush got elected. Newt Gingrich popularized that kind of neocon perspective, and Bush epitomized that. He represented his father. He represented an owner of a sports franchise. So behind every it factor is something dynamic about that person. And I think that Nikki Haley doesn't have it. I think that Tim Scott could showcase it, but I kind of agree with Omar. He doesn't leap out at me at the moment, and no one really does. Which is okay because we have 2022, which is the most important thing. These House races, the Tamika Hiltons and Anna Paulinas who hopefully run again. We need to support them and get to work and roll up our sleeves.
RC, but you got my point though.
I did. I sure did.
Each candidate within that time frame and within that certain amount of time, they had an it factor for that time. Yeah. Bush had his. This is Trump's.
I like VP Pence. I like Mike Pence a lot. But from hearing Mike Pence speak multiple times, again, he gets the job done, solid quarterback, but he doesn't take you over the top. He doesn't go off the prompter. He's a lifelong politician. Nothing against him. I think he's a good, upstanding man, a good Christian man, and he really sticks out for his constituents. But I don't think he brings it all home, especially with the base. I just don't think Mike Pence gets the job done like that. And that's just my take on that.
Well, Mike Pence is.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah,
Mike from my old church. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Mike Pence is one of those people who has no flash. You know, like Christian's saying, it's nothing like it's nothing against him as a person. Great guy. I'm sure, you know, he's an upstanding guy, but he just has nothing that will separate him from a pack of 20 conservatives who have all been politicians for 30, 40 years, who all want the presidency. Nothing will separate them, or nothing will separate him from that pack of people. We need somebody who's going to come out the gates. I mean, technically, Trump didn't come out the gates like that. I mean, come out the gates on the media headlines, and that's about it. But people laughed when they said that Trump would win. I mean, there's the viral clip of on the Bill Maher show saying, "Oh, I think Trump's going to win," and everyone laughed. Yeah, and Coulter, you know, it's. I hope that in 2024 we have somebody coming out of the gates who is energized, who's ready, who's I don't see anybody right now that I think could do it. But then again, I don't like lifelong politicians. I see a lot of lifelong politicians. So I guess we'll see what happens, though.
Yeah. RC, you want to weigh in on this one real quick? Or you?
Look, I like Pete Pence as well. And, I like Pence's policy. I think that he comes in a leg ahead of everyone else in the race because he gets to instantly, be the person who captures Trump's base in a lot of ways. He probably comes in with a 30% chunk in any primary field. However, if you know Pence's family, if you know people who work with VP Pence, you would know that Pence's wife is not allowing Pence to do anything of that nature. He is going to be with his wife. He's going to be recluded for the next 2 years, and he's not going to be in politics much aside from, of course, writing his memoir. And Pence is going to be out of the picture very soon. So it's a null point to discuss, and that's my insider information for you guys.
Hey, appreciate it. I mean, Indiana. I don't think Indiana necessarily represents the entirety of the United States. And being in Indiana and working in Indiana politics, and then you want to go on the national scale. I don't know how well you're going to relate to somebody in California, somebody in Florida, somebody up in New York per se. And it's just Indiana is just a whole different thing, and it's just you have to be able to level with the common man at some point, and that's why I think a lot of these candidates are going to have trouble depending on where they're at, and what the demographics are like, and what they've been doing, for the longest time. What is Biden's it factor? That's a great question. Oh man, that's funny.
You know what? Let me explain it. I think I can. Not explaining that he has an it factor, but trying to stay consistent with my point. Biden didn't really have one. The it factor here is, and it's really weird, but then again, Trump wasn't your normal president. He didn't even come along the lines of what a normal presidency should look like. You should be a governor and a senator or a secretary or something. No, he was a businessman and he became president. It was the antithesis of Trump. It was the anti-wave that brought Biden to prominence. It was the anti-wave plus people who really liked Barack Obama. Because Barack Obama chose, and I said I was a little kid and I said this, I knew it. Whoever Barack Obama chose was going to be president at some point as long as they were living. Because of what all Obama brought, just as a black man running for president, just what type of history, what type of mantle people would just thrust upon them, no matter. Believe it or not, I really think Obama could have shot someone. And I'm saying this, Obama could have shot someone and people would have still gave him robes and brashed him. It gave him so much glory and honor because he was black and he was cool with it. But here goes my point for saying that. It was that mixed with a whole bunch of hate Trump got, which gave way to Biden. To be honest, it could have been Bernie. If Kamala actually would have stuck to it and beaten Biden, it would have been her. It would have been, I hate to say it, Pete Buttigieg, even though he's very robotic. It might have even been Klobuchar. It was whoever Obama wanted it to be, plus the wave of how Democrats tried to spin Trump. It was two-sided. Anybody could have had an it factor for that election. For the Democrats.
I'm going to go for 0.5 seconds and I'm going to let RC and Chris hop in. I just think it was all Orange Man bad. I literally think it was just orange man bad, F Trump. That's what it is, and that's really the if factor that he wasn't Trump, and that's why people turned out to vote. That plus shady business dealings and everything else happening. Shady business. All right, y'all can go in now.
Well, I was just going to ask Omar, then how come Hillary Clinton didn't win? If Obama's endorsement carries much weight.
Obama did not want Hillary to become president.
No, but
to be honest, I think Obama was mad. Obama was mad. Think about this. Think about it like this. When Biden announced in 2016 he was not going to run, who's by his side? His wife and Barack Obama. Now, if Hillary Clinton had been vice president, do you think Barack Obama would have did the same thing? I'm sure. I don't know. But as bitter as that rivalry was, it's hard to forget. It's hard to forget when words were said.
Kamala
I honestly believe that Hillary was not his pick. It was always going to be Joe Biden. Even though he did say in behind closed doors, Joe Biden could blank this up. Mm-hmm. And this time I use a blank, Christian. I just want you to know.
I only asked that question, to be thought-provoking, but I do think you eventually did hit the nail on the head. Biden's it factor was anti-Trump hate. I mean, as much as Democrats would like to say that they won this election and this was about the voices being heard, no, I mean, he won by a slim margin that happened overnight in states that the Democrats will not win again in the future. And, so the reality of the situation is you literally had, you had the happiest place on earth, Disneyland in Florida, Disney World, with Black Lives Matter memorabilia, anti-Trump, anti-Kelly Loeffler memorabilia. You had every singer under the sun, Billie Eilish, Taylor Swift, twerking and talking about why you should hate Trump and vote for Biden. So, Biden's it factor was anti-Trump rhetoric, and Biden's it factor was a complete institutional corporate support that consolidated behind him. And, that pretty much was it. And the good thing for Republicans is that it's going to be very hard for Democrats to be able to use that kind of sensationalist rhetoric in 2 years, in 4 years. They're not going to be able to get hey, LeBron, NBA, can we, hey, Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon was talking about Black Lives Matter, so they consolidated everything they could around a narrative, around a singular pitch. And, it didn't work for them the way they thought it would. They thought it would be a unifying defeat, landslide. It wasn't that. In fact, it definitely wasn't that amongst minorities and Latinos. Black men and Latinos came out. They supported the president. And Trump lost a lot of suburban whites, suburban woke white liberals who you guys know I have an incredible amount of disdain for. I often fantasize about what I would do if I had a white liberal trapped up here in my basement. But it's a family show. I won't get into it too much. But the white liberals, who came out and who voted for Biden. The smug people with their coffee who, wants to resolve racial injustice. They came out and they voted for Biden, and that's how Biden won. So,
I have a question for you, RC, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
With all of this stuff about Black Lives Matter and the Democrats using Black Lives Matter as talking points, I want to know what do you think about reparations? Do you think if America were to cut a check, I don't care how much it's for, even if it's for $500, if America were to cut a check, is the conversation over? Can they use talking points?
Hold on to that question. I want Chris to weigh in about Biden's it factor. That I wanted to let you ask RC that question because I want Chris to weigh in at least before we get into that topic. That is pressing right now. Let Chris weigh in.
Okay, well, I will say honestly, I agree with all of you guys. Biden's it factor exactly was he's not Trump. Anybody could have been in that position. I said this in a former podcast. It really could have been a monkey. It was not Trump. They would have voted for him. It does not matter. You have masses who are uninformed. You have masses of white people who have white guilt, who all they want to do is inflate their own ego by saying, I fought racism today. I walked the streets with a sign that literally goes with every major company, media organization, every politician I've met in my life. They all agree with this, but I'm somehow part of the resistance. That's the entire white liberal, white guilt kind of movement. And that's how Biden won. Biden won because of white guilt. That's just the truth of it. And Trump is somehow the racist when Biden's getting the white vote. Biden's getting, I mean, of course he didn't get the majority, but I mean, white people are who's bringing him to win. I mean, they're the ones who's campaigning for him, donating to him. I mean, all these corporations, all of these, the banks, the media organizations, they're all on Biden's side. Everyone was against Trump. And the fact that Trump lost by such a slim margin, it's anything short but a miracle. And people will say the election was stolen. You know, and I've said this before, not 100% sure if it was enough to kind of change the election, but the fact that Trump lost by that little, I mean, that's how big his movement was. And whoever's coming up after him they got some big shoes to fill. I'll just say that, you know, Biden's factor was that he is not orange.
Yeah. Okay, Omar, go ahead, ask RC your question here.
Oh, he was asking about reparations.
Yeah.
I was talking about with all that is going on with the Democrats using and I want to say this, what has happened to these men who happen to be black that are getting killed by the police. A lot of them are actual tragedies. And no matter what you've done, you shouldn't be kneed to the neck. I personally believe that. But then again, you know, all police officers are not like that. I just want to just put that out there. All police officers are not like that, and we need to stop blaming police for that. But with all of the talk of Black Lives Matter, with all of those instances that has happened, and the outcry saying that America is never for me, America won't even give me a check. If we were to cut a blank check, no matter how much it is, does that conversation end? Has America righted its wrong, quote unquote?
The conversation will never end to these people. Have you heard these people? I just saw a professor from Washington and Lee University who wrote an article about why black votes need to count twice. Why that's the only way to resolve inequity, because of all the, you know, the history and, you know, and his university literally promoted this article on his website. You know, I think that is obviously the most ludicrous example of inequality, to allow someone's vote to count twice. Imagine the animosity that would create, the absurdity. This is where these people's logic is rooted into. So even if there was some sort of check cut to all Black Americans that gave us like $5,000, $10,000, I don't know what the equivalent would be, that wouldn't satisfy these people at all. That would, if anything, it would embolden these people, because you know, they would feel that they were correct and that they're right. So, I mean, the only thing I feel about reparations is that, you know, as you know, I am embracing political nihilism, as I understand that, you know, American, you know, democracy as we know it is pretty much destroyed. I embrace nihilism. I hope that the far left continues to push for reparations. It would put Biden in a hell of a pinch. It would put our government in a hell of a pinch. And it would also force the Democrats to tell these people that reparations is an impossibility, which is, you know, so, you know, on a nihilistic level, I'm interested to see where reparations goes. But, I mean, it's obviously a ridiculous idea. I mean, it's impossible to matriculate reparations. You know, who would you give it to? You know, it would have catastrophic effects on inflation. It's just an impossible thing to even think about. You know, while we're working on giving everyone reparations as like a 10, 12-year project, we'd be enslaved by China by then, I guarantee it. So reparations isn't feasible, but, you know, I enjoy seeing this pinch that Democrats are going to be in, because they're the ones who, you know, put reparations on a national scale and made that discussion legitimized.
I'll throw that question to you, Christian and Chris. What do y'all think about that?
Absolutely not. The left is insatiable with these things. No matter what you do, it's never enough. Diversity, inclusion, diversity. It's never going to be diverse enough. They're never going to be inclusive enough. They just keep stretching the goalposts and making lists of whatever else you need to do and their demands. You're not going to please these people, so stop trying to. It's absolutely ludicrous. And they say, what, $5,000 a month for the rest of their life. We've got Indian reservations here in the United States. Look at them. Those people there aren't living in thriving lives. Most of them aren't. It's not great. I don't want that for my people. I don't want that for my community. I don't want something like that to happen. It's not great. And the money-wise is how you're going to divvy it up and who you're going to give it to. I mean, that's always the biggest question. But, yeah, I mean, they throw the word around reparations, and then black people are supposed to show up to the polls and vote for something that's not going to happen. And it's a shame, and it's absolutely disgusting, and people should be upset because they get taken advantage of every 4 years with the same dumb ploy and falling for it. It's absolutely ludicrous how we can just turn out to vote based on one word, reparations. That's never going to happen, or it's never been shown that's going to actually happen. Black Lives Matter never got one of those sit-down meetings after the election like they were promised from the Biden administration like they thought they were going to. But yeah, they were listening to them, right? After they got all those billions of dollars to donate to Act Blue and everywhere else, all those liberal politicians. Come on. If they haven't caught on to the game yet, they never will. It's a crack. It's a crock. It's a total crock. So that's me.
I'll say with reparations, it's never going to happen, and it shouldn't happen. Honestly, how many people in the black community can honestly say 100% that they were certain that they are come from slaves? You know, it's not all black people. A lot of white liberals want to think that all black people come from slavery, but that's not true. But I will say I loved how RC put it. You know, it really does seem like the left, they're just eating themselves alive, and they've been doing this for years. Every time you know, something happens, it's just not inclusive enough. You know, they had the pink the P word hats, you know, family show, I'm not gonna say it, at the Women's March. Those were not inclusive enough. That's the color of white women and their genitalia, and so that wasn't inclusive enough. And what about trans women? You're not including them either. That is not inclusive enough. You are never inclusive enough. And now the only good part about Joe Biden now winning is that we get to see the Democrats control all three chambers of government, and we get to see what happens when the left now is saying you have to pay up. You have to pay up for all of our support. We've been saying reparations, Medicare for all. We've been saying free education, college education, debt relief, housing, basically communism. They want everything given to them that they've been asking for the last 20 years. Are the Democrats going to pay up? No. So what's going to happen? Is the Democratic Party going to implode? I mean, this is going to be the good part to see. You know, I know none of us wanted Joe Biden to win, but it's the silver lining. So.
Yeah. Take the reparations from Maxine Waters. No. Now, honestly, I feel like if you threw water on Maxine Waters, she'd melt. So she'd go away.
I've been face with Maxine Waters. There's an image of it on my Instagram, and I tell you, she is about as scary as she is in person as she is on television.
That is.
She's like a gibbet right here. It just hangs. I just keep looking at it. It hangs right here.
You know what my favorite thing she said was? And she... Right before the election, she said, I will never forgive people, black folks who voted for Trump. And I responded by saying, lady, do you pay any one of my bills? I mean, do you pay anyone? I should have started by saying, did you wake me up this morning? Did you die on the cross for me? What do I need your forgiveness for? Why? For one, I really don't need your forgiveness. I'm trying to help you out. For two, you know, what warrants you so much power that I need forgiveness from you? It's the egotistical nature that she has that makes her think she is all that just because she gets famous for saying something against Trump, and there were so many people that didn't like Trump so much that they gave her more of a platform to stand on and to run on. She's a terrible woman. She's a terrible policymaker. And to be honest, when she croaks, I'm never usually happy. I wasn't quote unquote happy when Ruth Bader Ginsburg left, but I wasn't hurt either.
Maxine is it's California in a nutshell, man. It's a lost cause. RC, are you from California?
I'm from California. I grew up very close to Maxine's district. When I was in JROTC in high school, you know, Maxine Waters actually attended one of my promotion boards. You know, my dad gave me some advice on something snide I should say to her. Of course, I was too scared to say it. But I did, you know, I shook her hand. And when I confronted Maxine Waters about a year and a half ago in the Capitol Hill building, I took a picture with her. And then I later on said, It's something, I hope you lose, make America great again or something. She came back into the Capitol chambers, and her staff followed her. She came and said, "What did you say, young man?" I was already leaving. I was with Joe Bazwari, another Turning Point USA influencer, and Ashton, also a Turning Point affiliate. And, they watched this entire interaction. And Maxine came over to me and she said, "You support that president?" And I said, "I absolutely do." And I told her I was punched in the face by leftists, and I absolutely abhor everything that she stands for. I told her that I met her back in the day when I was in ROTC in Inglewood High School, and she tried to concoct a lie about her office being threatened by Trump supporters. Something in her brain broke. She just started mentioning things that we weren't talking about. And, the other person with me actually filmed a little bit of it for a little while, but something in her head literally broke. She started talking about these threats she got from MAGA people and all that. And eventually one of her staffers just had the sense to drag her away. But I tell you, I cannot wait until the Capitol building is open again so I can confront all these folks and face to face again. They'll probably accuse me of being a terrorist, but no, I'm just a political consultant allowed to be in the Capitol building and allowed to give these Democrats hell.
It's called open season, baby.
Open season. Absolutely open season.
Open season. My 2 words this week that have really got me going. I get really emotional when I hear these 2 words. When I see it and everything, I get fired up, and it's not in a good way. When I see Dan Crenshaw mentioned anywhere, man, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not happy, man. I'm not happy. I see it, and I think of nice things. I'm not gonna lie.
You're not happy? Wait, what did Dan Crenshaw do?
What did Dan Crenshaw? All right, so I'm gonna share this here. I feel a certain type of way. Here's where we go. Here's where we go with it. I'm gonna go with it. I got a couple screenshots here. So he has a long, drawn, written out statement here. You can read this, just the first page of it. And in his caption, he explains the emotions are high, but he says, we can't ignore President Trump's behavior leading up to this. It bears an enormous amount of responsibility for what happened. Saying that President Trump bears an enormous amount of responsibility for what 200 people went to the Capitol and destroyed some glass and broke down some doors, and I'm not sure what property they stole, but he bears some responsibility and some weight for that. Dan Crenshaw turns on a dime, just easy money, Dan. Just go ahead and just eviscerate the president and 74 million people that supported him that have been called Nazis, crap thrown at him, urine thrown at him, maced, beat to a pulp, and thanks, Dan. Just turning that quick, gearing up for your presidential run in the near future here. Okay, so that's that. Okay, and I saw that, and I'm like, I was already turned off, but then there was another one. All right, there was another one here. It was a tweet actually. So I go to Twitter and I look around and I'm like, you got to be kidding me on this one. And so on Twitter we go, oh, okay, Dan. So now we're Liz Cheney. What a great, absolute, fantastic woman Liz Cheney is. Let's look at Liz. Liz Cheney has a hell of a lot more backbone than most. As a principled leader with a fierce intellect, she'll continue to be much needed leader in the conference with my full support. We can disagree without tearing each other apart. He's gonna stump for Liz Cheney, but won't throw up nothing to the president. Okay, Dan. All right, that sounds cool. Man, this guy has been in there less than 2 full years, and already swamped.
He's been in there 2 full years.
It's first term. It's through the first term.
He's been in there 2 full years. So yeah, I thought you said less than 2 full years.
Dan's a little squishy. We all know Dan's a little squishy. But look, let's analyze these 2 pieces. Let's analyze these 2 statements, right? Let's take a look at the first one. I'm happy that he didn't vote for it.
I'll pull it back up for you.
Okay. So look, he's not squishy enough to vote for impeachment. We're all happy about that, at least, right? Does he get any stripes for not voting for impeachment?
Well no, it's absolutely bare minimum.
Bare minimum.
I don't applaud him for doing his job. What he's supposed to do. It's like I showed up to work today. I'm like, you want
to statement. So he said Trump bears some responsibility. Some. It's kind of a vague statement.
He's simping to the left right there, in my opinion. I see him simping to people that hate his guts. That's what I see.
Honest, does Trump bear any responsibility? And this is why I don't do the whole thing where you posture and you say, look, well, I believe this. I'm different, and I have this good belief. I never do that, even when I disagree with the conservative, real grassroots movement at large. I never posture against them because I believe in the Reagan rule to some degree. I don't really like to criticize Republicans. I don't criticize conservatives. But if we're being honest, I mean, does Trump bear some responsibility? I mean, look, sure. I mean, Trump never had Trump just conceded and done the somewhat cowardly thing and just packed it in, would we have saw that? No. Does Trump bear some responsibility? Sure. A responsibility at the level that the left is saying? No. But I don't hate Dan for that.
What happened? What responsibility is there? Because I can't really find any, to be honest with you. I don't know what sort of
like I said, do we all agree that if Trump had came out on election, the morning after they found all the votes, if he had came out that 4 days later and conceded and all that, would we have solved that Capitol or whatever?
I mean, we wouldn't have seen it, but I don't think I would go that far.
No,
because at that point, Trump should not have conceded. I would say at a certain point, maybe in December, Trump, because we had our show and we were talking about how, you get hundreds of thousands of anybody who are marching for something, you're going to get a group who are going to do something bad. And we said that on this show, and look what happened. Now, we didn't really expect for it to get, bad enough that they would have stormed the Capitol. But I would say that Trump bears some responsibility, not enough for any Republicans to really. Right. I would say the smallest amount of responsibility, though. I mean, the smallest amount.
You sound like Dan.
I'm going to say this. I mean, as a leader, you do bear, as the president, as the incumbent president, he deserves some of the blame. Not all of it. Not all of it was on him. I mean, it doesn't matter what I say.
Look, we were all
you can't. People make their own decisions. He can't force folks to go throw themselves at the Capitol.
Right.
People make their own decisions, but does he bear some of the brunt? Yeah, he kind of does, but not to the point where the left is thinking, "Oh, let's throw the man in jail." No.
People were listening to him speak because the storming of the Capitol happened while he was still speaking. The timestamps don't match up in that sense. There's no.
But not talking about the timestamp. We're just saying in general. Like I said, it's a very small aorta. But in general, like I said, if Trump hadn't been talking about Dominion and if he hadn't been beating the drum, I'm not saying he shouldn't have been beating the drum because I think that debate is worthy and that integrity debate has to happen for a stable democracy. You have to allow debate. But like I said, I think we all love the president. So I'm just saying, like, Dan Crenshaw is a politician. He's just made a statement that we're all agreeing with, right? So Christian, I'm just saying. Now let's look at his next statement, right? And his next statement, he's backing Liz Cheney. Is he really backing her, or
RC? Yeah. I'm glad you said that. Yeah. I don't think he's backing Liz Cheney. And to be honest, I don't think he may have made a statement for Mitt Romney when Mitt Romney voted for impeachment.
These are his colleagues.
I don't think he's backing Mitt Romney at that point.
These are his colleagues. They see each other every day in the House. Right. And let me tell you an interesting story. I was in the office with Rep. Peter King, who served for almost 2 decades. And he was telling me about how he and AOC have a pretty decent relationship. They say hello to each other. They're both New York reps. They actually talk to each other. They talk all the time to a degree because they're colleagues. And she even said some nice words to him when he announced his retirement. And that just shows you the bond that reps have. So imagine, Congressman is defending his colleague, Liz Cheney. But let me tell you something else. He said that when he retired, Ilhan Omar, who he had never met, literally never even said words to on the floor. They don't talk to each other. Omar does that with a lot of folks. His office announced his retirement, Peter King, and Ilhan Omar's office released a statement, and they said that, we're happy Peter King is retiring. He's representative of white supremacy and blah, 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 blah. Never talked to the man, walked past him and released that statement. So everyone isn't at each other's throats the way that we think they are. And we got to realize Dan Crenshaw, all he's saying is, he's saying that Liz is going through a tough time. He's seeing her office sputter. He's seeing her hide in her office. And he's just, Dan Crenshaw is bold enough. Look, the guy has lost an eye. He's bold enough. He doesn't care. He'll take political hits.
He's a team player. You think Dan Crenshaw's a team player?
I think he's a team player. Yes, I'll tell you that McConnell. Yes, he is a team player. He's a team player. If he wasn't a team player, he would have voted for impeachment. He's a team player. I tell you that he is, and I tell you that
he gave himself a cop out with his statement. They all gave themselves cop outs.
I don't think it's a cop out.
To get some slack on it, like I'm not voting no, but we're going to say that he has some responsibility. It's the political game and political BS that a lot of us see through, and we don't like that anymore.
Christian, think about it like this: when you run as a Christian, when you run as a U.S. rep or U.S. senator, who matters most? Is it the rest of America, or is it your district or your state? Is it the people who elected you and your principal? Because at the end of the day, a representative or a senator has to answer to two people: the people of their district or state and God. If she felt like this was something she had to do, at the end of this life, and I say this for all representatives, at the end of this life, you got to go answer to God for yourself. No matter if you're right or wrong, you got to go answer for it, and that's something he has to do, and we have to respect that.
So who is Dan looking out for, Christian? He's looking up. I mean, look, he's not RC Maxwell. Huh?
I don't think his constituents wanted any of that. The same people in this election were backing the president most 100% here, right?
So a member of Congress, and if he has to call it, and if he's going to call balls and strikes, like we all just did,
that's the problem. You said it, balls and strikes. We don't need any more freaking umpires. We umpire, we sit on the sideline, we get killed every time. I play for a team, RC. I think you do too. We want to win. We go umpire balls and strikes. We got blown by trying to appease people who hate our guts. That's why I'm tired of the umpires. I'm tired of the Ben Shapiros. I'm tired of, we're going to release a big old statement and release all this stuff. And then never release a statement from the left, burn and kill the people.
I would have released the statement. You would have released a statement, but we're not in his position. And I think that given his position, his statement is to a degree fair. And like I said, we all just kind of, privately agreed that, look, Trump bears a little bit of responsibility, if we're being honest. Look, it's not something we want to talk about and harp on because it's a limited responsibility. But I mean, look, Dan Crenshaw, I don't fault him for that. I do think he's a team player. He's definitely not a Louis Gohmert, or he's not.
We can say Trump takes responsibility, but we don't hold anybody else to any sort of standard in Congress or any sort of politics to that. Oh, they don't have any sort of bearings on. Maxine Waters says get in their face, do this or that.
I said actually do last week, Christian. Okay. We got to, like the songwriter said, we got to sweep around our own front door.
We say that
before we sweep around someone else's.
Our people representing us in Congress and in the Senate don't necessarily say that, though, when those things happen. And that's the issues that I have, is when we condemn this, but we don't condemn that. We fight for this. We fight against ourselves. We call it conservatives.
But don't lump Crenshaw in with the rest of those right now. I mean, Crenshaw fights. Crenshaw does fight. You got to admit, he fights.
He's on a downward spiral in my eyes. I hope he's not. But in my eyes, I'm seeing it going downhill, and I'm scared. I hope he doesn't. I hope he proves me wrong. I really want him to, but I'm scared.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I understand, but I trust him.
Chris, go ahead and weigh in on something.
I mean, honestly, I'm honestly listening because I don't know exactly how I feel about Dan Crenshaw. I'm not a fan on all of his policy. I'm way more libertarian than Dan Crenshaw. I mean, there's that clip of Dan Crenshaw where he's sipping. He's on Joe Rogan's podcast sipping some I don't remember if it was whiskey or whatever he was drinking, and he's like, you shouldn't smoke weed recreationally, you shouldn't do it, as he's drinking recreationally. It's hypocritical. But we're not going to get into drug policy right now. There's some things I don't like Dan Crenshaw for, but I'm trying to listen to what you guys actually think about this because I don't know exactly how I feel. The Liz Cheney thing, I would say I'm a little more on Christian's side. He should be calling out his colleagues more than the constituents should be. I mean, if somebody on your team is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, the team players should. I mean, we all probably played sports in our day. You should be calling out your teammates before anybody else is calling them. You should call them out before the refs calling them out. And this, I'm a little more on with Omar and RC on the first thing when we're talking about his statement. I feel like Trump bears the smallest amount of responsibility. So do so many other people for this. So many other people bear responsibility for what happened. You could say this has been leading up for 15 years. We've become so politicized and so polarized in our country that now you have people straight up beating each other in the streets because you have difference of opinions. I don't think necessarily. I think Dan Crenshaw is just trying to play somewhat in the middle and be a politician, which I don't necessarily agree with all the time, but it is a polarized time. And
you guys are going to hate me in about 8 years. I tell you what. You know, it is playing politics, but at the same time, calling balls and strikes. Huh? Go ahead.
You're going to turn into Colin Powell in 8 years.
No, I won't get that bad. Trust me, I won't get. I'll never get that bad.
Oh, now, Christian, I'm gonna say this. I disagree with Colin, but don't disrespect my secretary now.
Oh no! Here we go.
Hey, that's my guy. I'm sorry, RC. You don't really know me. I'm more of a Bush fan, but I have my reasons for being a Bush fan. I actually admire the family. I admire them a lot. Even though they're rich and they're pompous, they stick together all through and through, like a family should.
They stick together and take their money
because that's my guy.
Well, Omar, it sounds like in 10 years you're probably going to be condemning us all as you.
I disagree. I disagree. Just because I like Colin Powell does not mean I don't have quirks with him. For one, he voted for Obama twice. I can't see it.
And Biden.
Yeah, and Joe.
Colin Powell's a liar. Colin Powell.
I love this tweet by Dan Crenshaw. I support it. Dan Crenshaw's actions say otherwise, and his words before they say otherwise, and that's the issue that I have here too. Is like it's not consistent. It's not consistent. And I'm like, come on, like this is like low hanging fruit here for everybody, every single libertarian to literally like shoot you out of the sky right now. I'm not a libertarian. I'm not even that fond of them, but I'm a big Second Amendment absolutist, and this is okay, Dan. Like, come on, quit playing games. Like this is. Issues I have. I have issues. I got issues, RC. You understand? Like, I know you can see it.
I understand it. And, you know, everyone jumped down his throat with the red flag thing. You know, he said he was trying to start a dialogue. I thought it was a little bit of a, maybe he's a Trojan horse for moderate policies. I mean, who knows? All I know is that, he's very friendly with a lot of people who are trustworthy in the conservative movement. And, he's came out and said some pretty unpopular things, and he's tried to die on a lot of hills that I think are worth fighting for. So, it's a scale. It's like I said, it's a sliding scale. Everyone can't be, a winner for the movement, but everyone isn't a rhino as well. And I'd like to chat more, but I got to get to dinner.
We're wrapping this up right about now. That was my last bit here. I usually go into talking about sports, my stuff, but we haven't done it the last time because there's been too much stuff going on to happen. And great news for Chris, the UFC announced that they're not going to be pursuing any more suspensions for marijuana violations. If you pee hot for weed in the UFC, you won't be suspended. So Nick Diaz, welcome on back. Johnny Bones. Stay up the booger sugar. You're good, buddy. You're in. So great news there. Outkick is going to go to live television. Great news there. More of a right-wing voice in sports. Really cool. Dan Le Batard and Jamil Hill are going to make their own further left-wing progressive news network, which is bad. It's absolutely terrible. That's where they're going. But we're trying to combat that in some sort of sense. But they're going to outwoke themselves so bad it's going to just backfire. So let it happen. That's what we got happening there. So I love watching Jamil Hill, man. It's instant content. Everything is content with Jamil Hill. So yeah,
love to hate Jamil Hill. Hey, have me back on when you guys talk politics. I'd love to be back on. Keep doing your work, guys. Stay engaged in politics.
We appreciate it, man.
RC, where can they follow you at?
You can follow me on Black Hannity, Instagram. That's pretty much where I am exclusively. I got some stuff coming up in 2021 content-wise. Still banned on Twitter, but keep an eye out for some new brands that might be coming out. But like I said, right now I'm just focusing on safeguarding my employers and my friends from this weaponization of institutions that's coming up here when Merrick Garland takes over the DOJ. So
okay, here we go. Good. Yeah, can't wait for the IRS to get weaponized one more time. So, another era of it.
See you guys.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in another week. This is Black Friday. We'll see you again next Friday.